Hey, welcome to the Nick's Boots podcast from start to finish. I've been asked to be here today, and I'm so honored by my friend and colleague, Rebecca Burnham. Rebecca, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Rebecca Burnham. I'm a customer service manager. So today's episode, we were just discussing different topics. And it occurred to me that there's actually quite a few questions that I think about. So here's the thing, Shuyler.
So is this for your edification?
Kinda.
Is that even the right word?
Sure.
I always get that mixed up because it sounds like education, you know? I'm going to look that up while you're keep going. Okay.
I think about your job quite a bit, actually. Primarily how much I don't want your job.
That's interesting. Okay.
Because there'll be several times where, like, I meet with you, discuss something. We have our standard meeting at 10 on Thursdays, and then I leave, and then there's like 8 other people in your office. I'm like, wow, Shuyler just has people coming to him for stuff all day.
Well, they come to you for a lot of things too.
Yeah, but you have like all the managers coming to you for stuff, and they're all bringing you like the thing that's most important to them, and you're having to juggle like 8 different people's most important things, which is not really a job that I care to have. So
That's fair.
There's quite a few things that I've thought through just like as a business owner. How do you navigate those things? And I think you do a pretty decent job navigating those things.
Well, Rebecca, thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. So I thought I'd ask you those questions. But I actually don't know this story either. But like, what's your deal? How'd you become a business owner? Did you always want to be a business owner?
Not really. I mean, I'm like a climber, man. You know, like one of those people
like
that
like an actual like
like
climbing wall, wild walls
no,
climber, or like a business
like
climber?
I see a level and I'm like, I want to get to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, it's something about me that I think, I don't know, I was proud of more when I was younger, and now I'm kind of like, oh, that's sometimes you have some weird tendencies, but no, I mean, I started out like I was actually a customer service rep. That was my first job, and I was like, well, I need to make more money, you know, and so I eventually worked my way up to becoming a customer service manager. It was a car. I think I've talked about it. It was like a car audio mashup with like a Facebook for cars called Car Domain. It was a little ahead of its time, and so far ahead of its time that it went bankrupt in 2007. And so I found myself, actually it was great timing because I was in night school for business. Like I was at an MBA program at the University of Washington, and I got laid off with great severance right in my second year. And so I just like went to school and played golf a lot and had a lot of fun. And like, because I was in school, I didn't feel like a total deadbeat, you know what I mean? And right in the 6 months when the unemployment checks were going to stop, I was like, okay, I should really find a job here. But it was like the recession. So it was right. I remember I was in a corporate finance class right when the financial crisis happened. And that was actually an interesting place to be. But I ended up kind of taking the first job I could get, which was running an e-commerce store. And then I was like, it was part of a bigger company though. And I was like, I want more, you know, I don't know. I feel like it's a little different now. There's still certainly people like this, but it was like, I was like the classic, like kind of American, you know what I mean? Like the stereotype American worker guy who's like, oh, I'm going to work my way to the top, you know? But anyway, I did almost, I worked my way kind of like to the second position at that bigger company. And, you know, it's funny. It was a funny experience because I remember when I got my promotion, I became like I think the youngest vice presidents in in that company's history. And I had a ton of responsibility. I was making more money. It was cool. But I remember like my family took me out to like a dinner to kind of celebrate. And like, I remember when I did it, I was like, okay, like what's next? Cause this doesn't feel as like fulfilling as like I thought it was, you know what I mean? Like my friends didn't care. My family didn't care. not in a bad way, you know what I mean? Like, but they were just like, oh, you're still the same person, and we're still gonna like make fun of you for the same things we always do, or just good, good natured stuff like that. And I was like, oh, maybe this isn't like the meaning of life or something, But I was good at it too. Like I'm like, thank you for your compliment earlier, but people like to do things they're good at, I think, and for better and for worse, this is something that I'm decent at. And like owning the business was like, my dad, I've talked about this before. My dad had a brain tumor, and he just took a lot out of him. He's fine, but we needed somebody to take over this business. And I was like, my wife is from Spokane, and I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, like I knew how like stressful I had a pretty good idea, because I had like a couple departments, and I was like, then I did some like consulting stuff, and that was pretty terrible. But I was like, if I'm going to do this, then I need to have like, it has to be worth my time, it has to be worth my while. And so that was kind of part of the deal. Like if you get somebody like me, like you're going to have to give up a piece of the business. And so that's the long story on how I came to own a business.
Nice. Weren't you a pizza delivery driver when you were in school?
Did you tell me that one?
Sandwiches.
Yep.
That's what it was.
Sandwiches. I was a valet. That was my favorite job that I've ever had.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Valet was the best job ever. I mean, I lived with my parents, so I didn't have to like make a ton of money, but I was making like pretty good money for my age, and it was all cash. So like I did not report it, but like, so maybe I shouldn't have said that anyway. It wasn't that much money. But it was, I got to drive cool cars. It was this place called the Sorrento in Seattle. It's actually where I ended up getting married.
Did you valet your wedding?
I did not valet my wedding. But yeah, I got to drive. I remember like this guy pulls up in a Bentley, and he like gets hammered at the bar, and he's staying there, and he's like, hey, will you drive me around? And I was like, sure. And so I just like drove this dude around in a Bentley, and like, it was like it was like a boutique kind of higher end hotel. So you were kind of, you couldn't really say no, like kind of, you know, I mean, you could, but like, I had a couple of stories from there, man. I met, Dan Aykroyd and,
what?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was, so they had the,
like when, what era?
2000.
Okay.
So it was the EMP, which I think is called Mopop now in Seattle, but the Experience Music Project, it was their grand opening. So like every like a ton of famous people came in, and Seattle actually doesn't have that many hotels, and especially didn't back then. So we got booked up, and like the Hearts, like Joan Hart, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sabrina?
Is that a person? Okay.
Melissa Joan Hart?
No. The artist, like Heart.
Oh.
Like the song. Or the band. Anyway, all right, that's terrible. Anyway, so some classic rockers, and yeah, that was cool. Like Newt Gingrich stayed there. That was kind of funny. I had like this. So I remember I was just kind of shooting it with Newt Gingrich's head of security, who came in, and like he had this kind of crazy story about Newt Gingrich, and I'm going to relay it to you, and it's like totally hearsay, but it's not bad. It's like, so Newt Gingrich is like a huge animal guy, apparently. He loves animals.
Living or dead? Like hunting?
Alive.
Or
no,
like,
he likes being around
pets.
animals and like seeing them. And so there was like a convention. I think one year the Republican convention was in San Diego, and San Diego has this big wildlife park, and it's like, but free range, like, like the animals are just walking around. And so he made them like set up a tent in the middle of this like wildlife park with like, I think there were like big cats and stuff like that. And he just got to like experience the ambiance of living like, on the African savannah.
In the middle of San Diego.
In the middle of San Diego, it's outside of it. And the guy was like, the security guys like literally were like, had their guns out, because there were like animals that could attack the tent and stuff like that. And so they're just like staring around super nervously. Anyway, I think that's my Newt Gingrich story. But yeah, what was I talking about again? Oh yeah. Valet is the best job, man. Love that job.
I mean, it's pretty low labor. Like, how often are you just standing there as a valet?
It's like one of those things. And I think you would like, it's like customer service too. It's like, you're always doing stuff, but I mean, it's not like stressful until it is. And then for like, a couple hours of the shift, you were just hair on fire, running all over the place. But then most of the time you're right. You're just kind of helping
Doing
people,
stuff.
bags and stuff like that. Yeah.
Interesting. Something I appreciate about you and your dad, actually, because I've worked under both of you. I've worked in several businesses. Not all business owners actually care about the people working for them. Like, they're just like, bottom line is bottom line. And part of like the responsibility of being a business owner is the bottom line. But you have done a good job communicating, and I believe this to be the case, that you care about the bottom line because ultimately it impacts the people working for you. Was that something intentional when you became a business owner? Is that something like the kind of business owner you wanted to be, or is that just something that is?
I think even when I was like in any positions of responsibility where I had some responsibility for revenue, I was like aware that like, hey, it's kind of my duty to make sure everybody still has, a reason to work here and make money and everything like that. And I would say like that is a lesson, because I think like people can take it for granted. You know what I mean? Like, so you're at a company and like you have your task and you do your task well, but like you're not always exposed to like what else is going on, right? In terms of like, how is the company doing? How much money are we making? Are we making enough to cover payroll, et cetera, et cetera? And most of the time that doesn't matter, you just kind of keep going. But every once in a while, like bad stuff happens, right? And like I've been I was a company that went out of business, nobody like life was ruined or anything like that, but nobody likes to get laid off, or you form relationships at places and you like to be around those people, and you can't do it anymore, I do think like what I've learned is that's not, obviously that's at the end of the day, that's why we do what we do, but like, it's not enough, And so you have to keep in mind that personal relationship with people. And that's something I love about you is like, you have, it's not an innate thing in me to think like, oh, it's, we should be doing things for people's birthdays, or like, I should order pizza for the whole company because somebody had a birthday, Did that happen at all recently?
Who's to say?
Yeah. Okay. Rebecca got a big pizza party and it was great. But anyway, like, no, but stuff like that matters, right? And it's like why people come to work. And I like to think about like, if you're going to be here for 8 hours a day,
that's a
long time. And you need to be having fun, and you need to be around people that you like and you respect and enjoy. And so I do appreciate you kind of bringing that up to me, and like making sure we make that a priority. I do.
Yeah. Well, it makes it easier that it is something that actually matters.
It does matter.
So
it does matter. It's incredibly important. Like if your employees aren't happy, like, one, I'm here 8 hours a day. Do I want to be around people who are not happy? That would suck. And two, like they don't stay.
Yeah.
It's a free country. Go get a better job. Yeah.
The rest of my questions are a little more businessy, but
cool.
We've grown a lot, and there's a lot of challenges that come with being a small business that's growing rapidly. Something you mentioned in our management meeting today, actually, is that even from just like a sales metrics standpoint, it's difficult to navigate because we don't know what normal is.
Yep.
So how do you make business decisions when you don't know what your normal finances actually are? So
I think you're referencing the fact that we've grown a lot just in the last 3 years. And so we don't really have like a great understanding of what is a natural cyclicality of our business because of that growth. Yeah. It's a good question. I don't know. Like I try to be data oriented. And so, we track this stuff every day, but I think, looking into like product mix, like what's doing well, what's not doing well. I check our website analytics constantly. Where is traffic coming from? It's like getting like to be a lot, to be honest. Like, I'm very plugged in. And so, the fact that the business has gotten bigger and more complex, it does put a lot on people. And so, I think we've also, we track a lot of stuff better. You know what I mean? Like you guys all have your weekly dashboards and, I just think that that's got to be data driven. But you're right. It is challenging, and like, I will have a month forecasted to be a certain thing because like it was a big month last year.
Right.
And like, sure, we dig into it. So we track all the marketing events and stuff like that. But like, it's hard to know like how much of that is the seasonality, how much of that is because we launched a new product. I mean, we can isolate the sales from the new product, but often the harder things I think are like when we do, we get a review on like a popular influencer or something like that. And those can be difficult to just keep track of. Like, sure, you can track like the traffic inflow, but like something that's weird about this business with the footwear thing is like the branding is so important, And so like the top of funnel stuff, you just don't necessarily have a great way to quantify what is the impact of like certain things that happen and make people want to buy your stuff. So, but the short answer to your question would be, I just focus on the data a lot, man, like dig into it quite a bit.
Yeah. Along those lines with footwear being highly branded, we've done a lot with our different product offerings and deciding how we're going to market things. How do you navigate conversations about the best way to approach this somewhat small and specific market? So I think a lot about like, it's a dumb example that's not totally the same, but like the burger industry. You have McDonald's, Wendy's, BK, like all these other companies. Some of them are very clearly trying to be something different. So Wendy's has square patties. They offer lettuce and onions. So it's not really comparable to McDonald's, even though they're both burgers. Do you take that approach, or do you do like, we're going to be McDonald's but better? Or do you do both?
I think we're fortunate to have a product that's high quality enough that we can legitimately strive to be the best boot in the world. And like, I'm not saying we're there yet. There are plenty of other great manufacturers out there, but I think that's like a legitimate, achievable goal for us. And then, it's not just about the boot, it's about the customer experience. And so like, how do we kind of fold all those things in? I think I certainly look at it like, well, if we can be the best boot, that opens up like a lot of different product opportunities rather than us just saying like, okay, we're going to be the best like PNW brand or something like that. We can make a lot of hay, I think, with different boot styles that are out there. And I think that makes sense. You're like, hey, Shuyler, what's your product development strategy like? And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to make the best boot and we're going to take, classic silhouettes that are out there and we're going to give them the next treatment and we're going to make them even better. And there you go. The McDonald's analogy is interesting, I think, because you're right. Like, there are a lot of, I don't know, I won't say copycats, but there are a lot of people out there that are doing similar things to us. Not a lot, but enough. And so, I think we try and differentiate that, with the product mix. And I think you'll be seeing, we've talked about it, you know where we're going there. But also with more options. And then I think also like customer service is paramount for us. Like I like to think of it like Knicks is like, it's like the IBM of boots. Like nobody's going to have a bad experience because they bought a Knicks boot. It may not work. You may get a refund, but that's going to be like the extent of it. Nobody's going to get screwed over. And that's not the case with everybody else, and I think that's a big thing that we emphasize, and it's hard to pull off. I mean, it really is. Like it's a cultural thing, right? It's like, how do you instill that in everybody within the building? And you don't, I mean, at once anyway, it takes a long time. And, so that's why we're working on like better QC. We're always trying to improve our QC, like visual standards, understanding what's acceptable at each station, tracking what people, who worked on what, and not to be like vindictive or anything like that, but to help people get better, and like understand how they can, make that improvement. But yeah, no, I think we're in the weird position where we can try to be the best. McDonald's probably is never going to tell themselves like, hey, we're going to make the best food in the world, just because they're not going to make any money doing that. You know what I mean? It's not profitable. But whereas I think that's something that we can legitimately say. And like, if that means we're only going to get to a certain size, that's okay. So I guess it's simple, we're just trying to be the best we can. And it sounds kind of corny, but like it does make things easier.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the other tensions with all the growth, just in terms of like the practicality of running a business, a lot of our conversations and a lot of the tensions we feel as management, I think, boil down to how do you navigate the needs and requests of customers with the needs and requests of employees. Because just because we're growing sales wise doesn't mean we can just immediately hire 40 more people to sustain that new level of growth. So I'm thinking about like customers would love lower lead times. In order to do that, we'd have to hire more people in production, which financially there's at some point a breaking point. You can only hire so many people and train so many people at a time.
And fit in the space.
Yeah. Or you ask your current employees to go at a breakneck pace that's not sustainable either. So how do you navigate conversations with customers and employees about their sometimes conflicting wants and needs?
I think we strive for transparency, and it's a good question. Like, you don't have employees if you don't have customers, but you don't have employees if you don't have customers if you don't have employees.
Right.
So yeah, it's probably like it's not hard, but it's probably the biggest focused thing I do is how do you keep everybody happy or relatively happy? And I think we just try and be transparent. Like we get people who ask for like certain configurations or certain things. And sometimes we've even done them in the past, but like I will get feedback from the production staff that like, this is really hard, or we go through like 3 vamps when we do this thing or something like that. Right. And I think we try to explain that, and I think this podcast is a big part of that. I think the other side of it is like, pricing, and pay. Well, I mean, hey, like we all got to live, and so I like, for example, this Wicked and Craig thing. So all those different variations that people want on Wicked and Craig that are hard to do. I think we're going to find a way to do it. It's just going to kind of cost a lot,
right?
And it's funny how like when you talk to the production team, it's like if you explain to them like, hey, like I know this is hard, but we are going to get more money for it. If we do it, we're going to get more money for it, which translates into more pay, better benefits, that sort of thing. And I think we do have a track record of like following through on that stuff. We've raised pay pretty dramatically. That you do have some credibility with them on that. So I would just say transparency and making sure that the financial side of things line up, so that you can make it worth people's while. And if we're delivering the right amount of value for a certain price, then I think people will buy it. And so far they have, Mm-hmm.
Also on the staffing side of things, a tension I feel as a manager, and I'm sure you've thought through as the owner, is because when I started, we were super small. It was like me and one other person on phones and emails all the time. When we were that small, the two of us could do a lot of different things, and job titles, roles, that didn't really matter because there's only 5 people in the office and you all know what the other 4 people are doing. As we've grown, it's become more important to differentiate roles and create clearer job descriptions and roles and responsibilities, just so that everybody's on the same page. Like when there's 5 people in the office, you can change something 15 minutes, everybody knows. But now if we make a change to something, whether it's a policy or a product offering that impacts 45 other people, that also has to come with some sort of pay compensation. So sometimes there's this tension of like, hey, our staff is this big, we need to get this much done. How much can I reasonably ask people to do? And when do we decide to hire someone else? So how do you decide, like, again, because our business is weird. It's not quite a direct correlation between this is how many labor hours we have a week, so this is how many people we need. Like, it's just not that clear cut when you're manufacturing. And
it kind of is.
Is it?
Yes.
I don't feel like it is.
I think it kind of is. I do it metrically, man. Like I measure stuff, and that's, I don't know. Is this too much secret sauce? I don't know. But like, You know, we measure productivity, you know, and for customer service, and we've talked about this, but it's generally around like, what's your indicator for what's the workload going to be for a customer or for a customer service person? It's typically sales, you know, those generally order processing, phone calls. What I will say is the challenging part of this business is that it is not everything is related to sales because of like the weirdness of our sales cycle, you know, because it takes six months sometimes for something to ship. And so like returns can like lag, you know? Anyway, like receiving, I know can be kind of a burden sometimes. But I generally try to look at it metrically. I think it's like fair and, you know, free of bias that I might have, you know, because my bias, like, I try to be cool, you know, like I'm trying to be like a good boss and good manager, but I do worry about costs, you know? And so, you know, but this way you can come to me. It's like, hey, we really do need some, you know, new people. I will look at the metrics and I'll be like, okay, you're right. Like, thanks for bringing this to my attention. You know, we've exceeded that threshold. And you know, it's time to hire again. That's my short answer. Long answer to the question. My not short answer. My long answer.
Do you quantify labor like per customer? Because like I look at phone metrics all the time. That's one of my metrics. But
Basically, yeah.
It's taken me a long time to figure out what an average phone call length is.
Well,
so that's part of what I mean is our business.
I think
our unique challenges and the changes within our
sure.
business change how much labor is required for specific things. So it's hard to like, on average, how much labor do we need to cover these basic tasks? Because it changes like monthly.
Well, you make cool Gantt charts. I've seen them. No, you do. I mean, like when that's what you're doing when you're making these charts that basically decide who's working where and from what, you know, what time to what time and, you know, how much they should get done. And I think we will always try and get more sophisticated with that, you know, but like there is like a cost to analysis and to communication. And so, you know, we do have to like say, okay, you know, am I going to spend the whole day looking at spreadsheets or doing, you know, do I have other things that need to do? So we can take like a maybe not a perfect measure, but like a decent one and use that in the interim while we develop more sophisticated data analysis like capabilities like you've done, you know. I mean, we have much better, like we didn't have a phone tree when you started, you know, we didn't have call queues, if you can believe that, people. We had like the phone would just ring and the phone would ring. I'd stick my head out and I'd be like, can somebody get that? You know? And like it would ring from one desk, and if that desk wasn't available, it'd ring to the next desk. I remember Lucas would be standing there like, "Oh my God, please don't come over to me." But yeah, no, you know, you can measure that stuff now, and I think that helps you do a good job of making sure we're fully staffed on phones, and I mean email. We have like a CRM now, you know,
yep.
like. So yeah, that's my long answer. I'm sticking to it.
If you say so.
Do you feel that we are not doing enough? I know we just talked. We are.
No, I think it's just the variance.
We are trying to hire one more person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are some things that are predictable. Like I know if we run out of a leather and we send out leather delay notifications.
Yeah.
That day and the day after on phones are going to be busier than normal.
Yep.
And on emails. So I can staff up in those
Or when
instances.
a new leather comes in.
Right.
Because people are like, oh, I want to switch my order. Yep.
Right. So there's some things that are predictable, but there's other things, and it's primarily systems issues, I think, or supply chain issues. So if our shipping system has an issue and suddenly Maddie can't ship anything, I now need to divert like me and one other person onto that issue so we can attempt to resolve it so that we can actually ship things and realize revenue. So those sorts of unforeseen things are a little bit difficult to schedule for because we don't have a huge buffer because we're still a relatively small business. Whereas if we were a larger business, then I'll just like take 2 people off phones and it's fine.
I would say we're in like an interesting position, I think, from a business size standpoint, where we're like small enough where our systems have not quite matured enough or been invested in enough to be, you know, like at that next level, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But we're big enough that when things go bad, it's like it matters,
Right.
you know, and like it's like, oh crap, like this is a lot of work or impact or customers affected or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we are investing. I think like you're mentioning the shipping system or whatever, like we are going to invest in better technology there. And like we are like, so
Right.
I'm super excited. We're going to actually be bringing on a new developer group to kind of help us with all those integrations and get our website to be like a little more up to date. And I think it's fine, you know, and it like works really hard for what it is, but there's definitely like opportunities for improvement. And we've just been like, you know, spit and glue here for, you know, the last like 3 years. So thanks for hanging in there. I appreciate it. We're going to get there. Kelsey, you too. You're doing great. But I don't know. I think, and like, I think I really appreciate the patience you guys have had. Like, but I also like, so to the listeners, like the thing I always say is like, remember how bad it was last year? and then they're like, oh yeah, it was really bad last year. And I'm like, hey, we've made some progress. And that is not at all to excuse like that there's not, you know, work that could be done and should be done and is being done now. I think it's funny. Because, you know, it doesn't really matter. Like if it's like sucks less, I guess it still should like not suck at all. But hopefully it does put it into perspective a little bit, like where we came from. Like, I mean, I just remember there was like 3 people doing try-ons, you know, the tagging system, like we didn't have bombs.
We had 3 people working out of a Gmail inbox hoping they weren't responding to the same email.
That's right. So we've come a long way, baby. But we are still working on that. And I appreciate you coming with me, and we're all in this together.
And back to my earlier questions, that's like part of your job as the owner. How do you navigate those priorities? So like if I come to you and say shipping's falling apart and the employees that report to me are unhappy because their daily work experience is being not even mildly inconvenienced, largely inconvenienced by this systems issue that we have plans to solve, but just haven't implemented yet. But production also needs more bathrooms and marketing needs better reporting or something. Like how do you decide priority as to what you implement first? I mean, in this example, bathrooms are probably first.
We are well within code. But we do need to, I had a guy in today, like we're getting quotes on renovation. Yeah, I don't know. Like I guess it's whoever's experiencing the most pain, you know, it's kind of sad to say it, but like you're triaging, you know, but I would say the renovation thing is because the renovation, I think it's also what affects the most people. So renovation does like help everybody. Cause obviously it's not just going to be like production. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's the short answer, but I do think like we have to have parallel paths and like, we are, you know, by bringing on this new group, we should get a better shipping integration and that should make that work better. So I don't know, you can't like, I guess we do prioritize, but you have to do a little bit of everything at once. And I always kind of like harp on like making progress. Like, are we making progress on things? And that is, I think, the most important thing. Because eventually you'll get there, you know, that's all I got.
So if I really want something done, I should just come into your office and
cry? This is tough.
Breakdown.
This is tough. I cannot handle tears at all. At all. Oh man. Remember I had to let somebody go once, not here, at another job, and they started crying, and I was like that feeling, like in your stomach, you know, you're just like, oh, I'm the worst person. And I was like kind of embarrassed too for them. And I was like, oh, you're crying? There's no crying in baseball, you know? But that would work for sure. You could even threaten it.
I'll just
like, what do you want?
Save it for emergency.
What do you want?
I don't know. I'll think about it.
Okay. Thanks.
No, but I'm not good with that either. Even with small things, I'll like go home. I'm like, am I a terrible person? Am I a terrible manager?
Well,
Sure, I don't think it's the case, but
I'm like, I'm not the best kid guy, you know? And like, we have some people who bring their kids in to work, you know, and that's cool. Like, whatever. We're like, it's fine. It's good. But like, I remember like yesterday, somebody came into my office. I was like paying bills, which is like the worst day of the week for me. Paying bills, A, it's like super boring, and B, you're like, here's all the money, you know, going out. And I was so awkward, dude. I was like, she told me that, you know, she worked here now and did she made like some, you know, like a poster or something like that. Yes. And I was like, oh, you know what I said? I said, you can't work here. It's illegal. And
for the listener, this is in fact a child, not an employee.
I was like, and I'm like, and afterwards I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, you are a psycho.
You know what's funny though? After that, she came into the break room when I was on my break, and she just opened the fridge and was like looking around. And we have a cake in the fridge right now, and she's like, whose cake is that? And I was like, oh, I think it's Abby's. And she's like, oh, I didn't know it was Abby's birthday, but I've only had my job here for like a week, so I don't know why I would know that. And then she like closes the door, and I was like, oh, you work here now? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, how much are we paying you? And she's like, oh, it's like $50. And I thought she was going to say an hour, and she was like, a week. And I was like, great, we're really saving on labor. I
just want to point out we do not have any underage employees here.
Correct.
Yes. But okay. She's not. It's on
very
payroll.
Funny. It's like her big thing, and her mom is like, "I wish she would stop saying that."
I know. I'm like, I need to. Yeah. I talk to lawyers now. Anyway. Okay.
I think that's pretty much all the questions I have for you. Other than, do you like being an owner? Would you keep being an owner? What was your like childhood? This is what I want to be.
Astronaut. No. That's like 33%, by the way.
Is astronaut?
I just read an article. Yeah, 33%.
What are the other ones? Astronaut. President, doctor?
I don't know. It's just about astronaut. I don't know.
Space, Kelsey.
I wanted to be like a professional athlete, but then I realized pretty early that wasn't going to happen. I don't know. I wasn't one of those like kids that like, I was like, I'm going to be a policeman or, you know, whatever. Just kind of meandered my way through, man.
Yeah.
You know?
I played real estate agent with my sister a lot, but I think that's primarily because we shared a room and I wanted to like sell her a corner and keep the rest for myself.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I was a big Lego guy, you know, building Legos.
Still a big Lego guy.
I'd like make little towns and stuff. Well, pretty big towns actually. But yeah, I was always like, I wasn't weird, but I was like the prototypical boy. And I was like, how can I make this a gun? You know, and I turned everything into like war stuff anyway. But no, I didn't. I don't know. Like, I always wanted to be successful, quote unquote successful, you know, like pretty typical. At least I was born in the 80s. That's what you did, you know. Gordon Gekko. But no, I don't know. I never really set out to be a business owner per se. I just knew that I wanted to be in a position where like I was influential and had a voice. And you know, not all companies are like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like we do a decent job here with trying to like give everybody, you know, a say and try and have some, you know, consensus around the things we do. But you know, not every place is like that, man. So I guess you kind of build the environment you want to work in, and I'm in the position where I can do that, which is very fortunate.
Yeah, it's fortunate for everybody who works here as well.
Thanks, Rebecca.
So, yeah, no problem. Last question: why the switch to Patagonia? You still a Patagonia guy instead of North Face? Huh? Yeah.
Wow, man, I'm on display here. Well, I don't know if you can tell, but I've lost a little weight lately, and the North Faces are very boxy, I feel like. Whereas the Patagonia is a little slimmer fit. And then also, Patagonians, these are lined.
North Face is not?
And North Face is not. So it's just like the eco ball or whatever material on the inside too. And this is actually lined, and it's like way more comfortable. And they're not that much more. They're like $20 more. So I don't think they're quite as warm, but actually I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you can always put a heavier coat on. I really like Patagonia. I think they make a really high quality product. I do enjoy them over North Face right now.
Wow.
I know, it's a big change. So I have like 6 North Faces, and I would buy a new one every year. And I'm a Patagonia guy now.
XX Patagonia.
Yeah, that's right. That would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. But we did a Filson thing before Whites got in with them. Yeah, it was kind of before your time. It was back in like 16, 17.
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't really have any memory of it.
Yeah, no, we like sold stuff in their stores. It was cool.
Cool.
All right. Well, Rebecca, I think you should really be signing off here, but I'll do it anyway.
Great.
Thank you for having me on, and thanks to everybody for listening to me ramble on about some very interesting questions. Rebecca, thanks for putting it together.
No problem.
All right. We'll see you. Bye.